Now we're going to touch base with the unicorn Razorpay. Why are we talking to Razorpay today? Because Razorpay is going to play a really crucial role for all of you that may want to earn money from your Twitter feed. I'm talking about the new feature, Tip Jar. Tip Jar was announced by Twitter recently, which basically allows people who like certain tweets to tip the users that came out with those tweets. Basically, earn as you tweet. Maybe it'll be a good sign for all of you to know that are you tweeting what the public actually wants to hear. It'll be interesting to see if toxic tweets also get tips. But the big question, of course, is that is Tip Jar the precursor to many more features that will allow monetization on Twitter? For example, in the United States already, what Twitter is talking about is ticketed events on Twitter Spaces. Spaces is the Clubhouse clone, an audio-only feature where a host starts a room, others can join as speakers, there are listeners, they can raise their hands and also become speakers. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is just the first of many such features that we will see on Twitter. Joining me today to talk about how all of you can earn money off your Twitter feed is Harshil Mathur, the co-founder of Razorpay, who's joining us live right here on Startup Central. Harshil, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us live today on Startup Central. So it's official, Razorpay will be collaborating with Twitter for Tip Jar. Do you want to break it down for all of our viewers that what exactly is the Tip Jar, how it's going to work?
Thanks, Nayantara. Tip Jar is a very interesting feature. Twitter launched it in US, I think about almost a month and a half back. And the idea is very similar in India. The idea is that like if you are an influencer and if you have a strong profile on Twitter, how can you monetize that profile? You could either use it to raise donations for yourself, for keeping your activity alive. You could raise it for an event or for a cause. For example, in COVID, we saw a lot of influencers raising money for various causes using Twitter. You could raise it for an event, you could raise it for a promotion, and multiple other things. So far, there was no native way for you to do it on Twitter, so you had to use third-party platforms. A lot of people, for example, used Razorpay for this in India, but now it will be supported natively. So basically, if people go to your profile, they could see a tip button at top of your profile. They could click it and click pay and add as much amount as they want to. And with the button, they can tip money to you and it will reach directly your bank accounts. Razorpay will be the payments provider and the infrastructure provider here. So all the compliances and everything associated with the handling money flow and payment flow will be taken care of by Razorpay, while it will be broadcasted through the Twitter platform. So people can put it up on their profiles in India as well going forward.
So Harshil, that's basically going to mean that users will obviously have to link their Twitter profiles with UPI or their bank accounts, etc.
So it will be different because Twitter doesn't have a payment license in India. So what you will have to do is that as a user, you'll have to sign up and create an account with Razorpay, get your KYC and everything verified and approved. And then you can go to Twitter, link your Razorpay account with your Twitter profile. And through that, people will be able to pay you. And Razorpay will be taking care of the compliances, data localization, and everything associated with handling money flow in India. So Twitter the money will not be touched by Twitter. We will collect the money from the customer and send it to the user, and it will be broadcasted and advertised through the Twitter platform.
So Harshil, I've got to ask you this one question. Are you going to take a cut? Supposing I'm Nayantara Rai, I like Harshil's tweet. I want to give you, hypothetically, 500 rupees for it. I use a tip jar feature. I tip 500. Will the user get all 500 rupees? Will I have to pay a little more? Will there be any commission in the middle? How is it going to work?
Yeah, so it will be like a typical payment gateway transaction, like when you go on a website and shop for something. So we'll charge a platform fees for facilitating that transaction. It could range from somewhere like 0% to 2% depending on the instrument and stuff. So for example, if you go and pay via credit card, you will end up paying like you as a user who's donating will not pay, but the person who's receiving the money will have to pay that fees, which goes into paying for the bank fees and other infrastructure providers as well as Razorpay's platform fee. That is something that will be charged.
But that has to be charged for almost every digital transaction. There's nothing over and above.
Yeah, it's the same. The standard payment gateway charges is what will be charged to the user receiving these payments.
Now, is this going to be only for the verified accounts, all of those with the blue tick, or is this for everybody? Whether, as long as they link it, whether it's, they've got 10 followers or 10,000 followers or 1 million followers?
See, I mean, that will be for Twitter to implement. They decide the policies on this, on who they will open to. My view is that in starting, it will be restricted to certain profiles to see how it performs and how is it being used. But I expect over time, it will be much more broad-based. I think, for example, in most features, and I'm speculating here, but like even for Spaces feature, for example, initially they allowed only verified profiles, but over time other profiles were allowed to do it. I think similar will be for this feature and any other feature coming in. But I think it should be broad-based because it's not just verified profiles. A lot of NGOs and a lot of people raising money for good causes on Twitter don't have that big profiles, but they are raising it for right reasons. And I think as a platform, Twitter might want to support those.
So you say that this can also be used, let's say, for crowdsourcing activities, crowdfunding activities,
Definitely.
I beg your pardon.
Definitely. I think that is a big use case that I envisage, especially in COVID. Last year, we saw a lot of people using their influence on Twitter to raise money for good causes. So I expect that this to be a really big reason for people to use the tip jar feature.
Can I ask you one question, Harshal? And that is, this has been announced. When is it going to go live?
It is actually live. There are certain influencers who are testing it out. I mean, again, it is up to Twitter when they want to publicize those influencers and publicize it. But it is actually already live. There are certain influencers who are live and testing it out. In probably next 1 or 2 weeks, you'll start seeing it more frequently on your Twitter feed with a lot of large influencers using it.
So it's going to require two things, right? The content creator and the content user, they both will need to see the feature and they both will need a Razorpay account.
No, as a user who's making the payment, you don't need to have a Razorpay account. You just need to, we don't onboard consumers anyway. So you go to a profile, let's say somebody's profile, and you see a tip jar feature, you go and click that you want to make a payment. You can use your credit card, debit card, net banking, wallet, UPI, any instrument to make that payment directly. You don't need to create an account. You don't need to onboard yourself anywhere else. You just use your instrument that you have, make that payment, and the payment will be done. The user, the person who's receiving the money will need to have an account with us so that we can have their KYC and everything else and ensure that the money is reaching the right place.
And it can be as little as, let's say, 1 rupee to 1 lakh, whatever?
Yes. Actually, we expect micro donations to be a bigger use case here because a lot of these people will be influencers raising money from general public. So I expect a lot of transaction sizes to be really small, like 1 rupee, 10 rupee, 15 rupees as well.
Will you have exclusive rights with Twitter as far as the tip jar goes?
I don't believe that. I think we are the first ones to go live. And if you look at US, they have like 4 or 5 payment platforms linked in US that they support. In India, we are the first and only ones. But I expect and I see no reason why it shouldn't be broad-based.
My final question to you, Harshal, what we've seen in the last 1 year is the mushrooming of so many other microblogging platforms. One microblogging platform, which is cool, but we've also seen these short video platforms, right? And they've really done well. Some of them want to introduce these features. Some of them already have these features. Is this the way to go, where we're going to see monetization take place, and therefore, the users will also stay more captive on the platform?
Definitely. Let me give you a stat, right? Today, at least in the last 1 year, 40 to 45% of transactions on Razorpay have originated from a social media platform. It could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be WhatsApp, right? So a lot of transactions are actually originating from these platforms because you are a small seller, you're selling something, you put up a photograph of that on Instagram and you say, hey, if you want to buy this, click this link. You put it up on WhatsApp within your family group or within your locality group and say, hey, if you want to buy this, press this link, and so on and so forth. So a lot of commerce is originating on social media platform. And that is why more social media companies will try to play a more active role in this in the commerce that happens on those platforms instead of a passive role where these are being publicized there, but they have no role to play. So I think it's a good step because for a lot of small sellers in particular, and that is one thing that I particularly believe in, that small sellers are the future for driving a lot of digitization in the country. And for small sellers, I think social media is one of the best ways to not just list their platform and put up a payment link and stuff like that, but also to market it, to publicize it within the group. If somebody likes it, they can share it, they can retweet it and things like that. And that helps them build a captive audience. So I think this will become the norm in next couple of years, and a lot more commerce, even already we are seeing a lot of commerce happening on it, but a lot more commerce will happen through social media platforms, whether it is the online platforms like Twitter or Facebook or video platforms like Takatak and others. I see that as the future of commerce, especially micro commerce.
That is the future. 50% of Razorpay's transactions originating from social media platforms. Social commerce is expect to be the next big thing. With that, Harshal, I'd like to thank you for taking your time out for joining us here. So, ladies and gentlemen, very soon you all will be able to earn money off your tweets. It's going to be very interesting to see going forward how this pans out. Razorpay, which is the first one to collaborate with Twitter, seeing big opportunities, not just in social commerce, but also as far as crowdfunding goes. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Harshal.
Thank you, Nanda.